Hey there, welcome back to these Conversations with No One, where I attempt to share my experience of living in a state of non-identification with duality and my character. This fourth conversation is actually conversations with someone, because I take my inspiration from some of the comments people have made on my other videos. So recently a couple of subscribers, boy, I'm still getting used to that being a thing, shared their experiences on their journeys as being empty, meaningless, or just boring. And I thought I'd talk about my experience with this phase and some of, I guess I want to call them traps or dangers that I navigated as I intellectualized my experience with knowledge about non-duality and its teachings. And by danger, all I really mean is that the choices we make create and define our experience in the dual world. The perspectives we choose informs the entire experience. So, for me, making these choices with intent has value to my subjective experience. There is no actual danger here, but I've seen a lot of people struggle with finding what it seems that they're actually looking for. And there are a lot of ways our ego and our dualism work to subvert our letting go of attachment. Now, there's a big difference between experiencing boredom or the desire to have desire and experiencing meaningless. I think I explored the experience of boredom pretty thoroughly in my first conversation, so let's talk about the other part of this, the feelings of meaninglessness. So as I understand, at the core, non-duality teachings visualize everything as consciousness. Everything is one, consciousness experiencing itself. Now, when I say these teachings visualize this, what I'm acknowledging is that I'm not defining it. Words like consciousness are the best that we have to try to explain this. So with these non-duality teachings, the idea of everything is one consciousness experiencing itself. Everything is God, including you and all the other people you think you experience. We are all us. And from what I've observed, there seems to be two paths our minds want to choose from when we encounter this concept. And those are I am God versus we are God. Now, both of these are equally true as a whole. But if we choose to embrace one version over the other, it creates very different experiences within the dream. When I came to that moment, I was still reeling from my ego death. When I learned these concepts, when I understood them, when I experienced them, when I had that awakening. And when I looked at the two choices, I am God and we are God, I refused my ego the opportunity to feel special. So I felt my only choice was to be no one rather than the center of everything. Of course, my ego interpreted this as the right path, proving to me that every choice we make has its own particular ego challenges. So there's a word I learned while I was learning about non-duality that, well, I'd heard it before, but I never really understood it. Solipsism. And solipsism is the view or theory that the self is all there is. And in that sense, it's a viewpoint that appears to be the opposite of non-duality, where there is no self at all. But it can also be perceived as meaning the same thing as I am God. And for me, this perspective was dangerous to my ego, as it seemed that the logical conclusion of that path was narcissism and a lack of empathy. And that wasn't an attractive subjective reality that I wanted to create. And when I observed this in other people experiencing this, I don't get any sense of peace or harmony. As I've shared before, I made the choice to care about the dual experience of others simply because they appear to experience it as reality, just as I did. It's equally true that they don't exist, and neither do I, but why does that matter? If they are all me, then I've chosen to care about me in whatever form I take. If I'm everything, then I'm having this experience with myself on purpose, playing and dreaming. So why would I need to also choose to not care about the dream at all? There's no point in not enjoying it all. No point in questioning why we're experiencing it, if we're experiencing it. We already know, we are already everything. So we don't need to have that dual experience of knowing. So this is the path I found that led me out of the experience of empty meaninglessness. There's no meaning except what we create, and therefore all meaning we create is equally real. We don't just stop experiencing our duality until, well, we ultimately do. So there's no reason not to enjoy it all for what it is, instead of worrying about what it isn't. It's like the path is a circle, leading away from self into emptiness at first, but as you keep going, it leads back to self with a capital S, the greater self, the consciousness. And I guess another way to look at it is, the first step is to let go of all meaning. And the next step is to let go of all meaninglessness. It just doesn't matter that it doesn't matter. So thanks again for joining me out here, this beautiful spot. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for listening.